The threat has, in some ways, lessened because the security services and the police have been able to develop techniques which have thwarted a lot. But as it evolves into what is sometimes called the lone wolf, the clean skin, that is a huge problem, because the more people you have in a conspiracy, the more chances are somebody's going to find out about it. If you are just a single individual with no previous contact, then that is a very difficult thing to solve, which is why the role of the community is so important, because it's only the community can give the police that first clue about there's something odd going on in that house.
Are we less safe?
I think it's just evolved. There's still this horrible sense of a random threat sitting out there somewhere, as in Tunisia, where you just happen to be on the beach and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
In terms of confronting that threat then, the Prime Minister has talked recently about confronting extremism. In his view, we must be more intolerant of intolerance. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think this is a very difficult argument to make. It seems to me we have to accept there are people who live their lives by fundamentalist rules, and we have Jewish fundamentalists, we have Christian fundamentalists, we have Muslim fundamentalists, we have Hindu fundamentalists. Fundamentalism in itself is not a matter for the state to interfere with. It's when it slides into violent extremism that it is, and it's that journey that the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary are trying to fix. Where's the point on that journey? But if we cut ourselves off from talking to some people whose views we do not like, but to whom millions of young people listen, that's a very difficult issue for us.
Some people would argue, though, that given the real brutality, the sheer brutality and the twisted nature of the threat now, that actually time for working with communities, that time is gone. Actually, we need to take a much tougher approach.
Some people might argue that we must take a much tougher approach. I couldn't agree less with them. We have to take a very resolute approach, be resolute in actually requiring and demanding that this community works with us, with the rest of us, with creed and colour and gender across the United Kingdom, to say we must stop this happening. But you don't do it to them, you do it with them.
Do you think the police and the security services need more power?
No, that I'm aware of, except for one. They do need the communications data bill as it was, and whatever it's going to be, that needs to be sorted out.
The so-called snoopers charter?
Which it isn't. It is a technique that has been used by the police and the security services for 20 years. And if we lose that, and we are losing it because of the technical changes in internet usage, we will be unable to trace people. And we need desperately, as we did after 7/7 and 21/7 and the airliners plot, we found those people by the use of phones.
And do you worry with the changes in technology we won't be able to?
Well, we won't be able to. It's as simple as that. I mean, if one reads David Anderson's report, he makes it absolutely clear that we have to have this technical capability.
We've got two major incidents. Yeah, the emergency services have declared
we
they're
have
on their way
thick
down
smoke
there.
coming from the tunnel. We have customers on the track.
On the track?
Yeah.
Can you move away from this road?
Will you please get as many ambulances as you can here?
Take us back to that morning. What do you remember the most?
When one saw the image of that bus, it was obvious that it was a bomb. It was obvious it was a major attack. All the other things we'd been hearing for a short period before about a power surge and different things on the tube, suddenly this was a major terrorist event. The thing that we had been training for and planning against for half of my professional life. The second thing was that my son had just rung me to say that the tubes were closed, so I told him to get on the bus. And so I had both the dual position of being the commissioner and being a father. Most of the facts were coming out by 9, so that was when it was obvious. There were a series of attack points. In fact, we thought there were more, because people were climbing out of the tube in two directions from one train, so different train stations seemed to be under attack. What's significant here is that people not only carried out the plan, but also worked on their own initiative. There was an immense amount of bravery that went on. If you take the bus, there is a crime scene, a bomb. The instructions are that in almost all circumstances you don't go to that crime scene because there may be a secondary device. There is on the rack of the bus still a very large brown package, and yet police officers went into that bus and pulled out the injured and the dying and did what they could. And so did other members of the public. It turned out to be a microwave. And so there was bravery as well as preparation. And my favourite memory of it, if there can be a favourite memory of that day, is that when officers were just in training, we used to be on what was called a street duties course. And so there'd be about 12 of them trailing behind an instructor. The instructor arrives at Russell Square just as people are streaming out. And he says to them, "You stay here, I'm going down to find out." And these young men and women who were a month out of training followed him down into the deepest of London tunnels, into a scene of medieval carnage.
Do you think we'll ever be able to make this threat disappear?
Well, I'm 62. I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime.